Hello, welcome to the podcast of Startup Recruitment Failures. I'm Indra, founder and CEO of JobRely. We're building LinkedIn automation platform for outbound recruitment. And today my guest is Olegas Murashko, engineering manager at Meta. Olegas, could you please introduce yourself and maybe your company or your team? I believe everyone knows Meta.
Hey, thank you for having me today. So I'm working as EM for Meta. Not for long, just for 1 year, across a couple of teams already. I'm working in domain called integrity, so keeping company accountable in front of our users and keeping our platforms safe, like Facebook and Instagram. And before that, before joining Meta, I took multiple interesting roles across product startups and enterprise companies. I was engineering manager or software engineer. So happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and being here. And yeah, as you said, so you've been an engineering manager for quite a few companies now, and I believe you have quite a few recruitment failures. Am I right?
Oh, yes, as all of us.
Could you share any with us?
Probably I should have top 10, not just one. I think all failures, I can categorize them into two large buckets. So bucket one is hiring too quickly. And especially considering this economy cycle where we were for quite a long time, for the last maybe 10 years, where everything appeared to be growing very quickly. So it was a common situation when you join a product team, and one of reasons why you're invited as engineering manager or tech lead is to help the team grow. So basically, it means you are spending a lot of time hiring, and the focus is on speed of hiring and a bit less on quality. So it means in practice, very often you just need to fill the headcount as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. And the first bucket of such failures, what I experienced quite a lot, is hiring too quickly. Mm-hmm. So you are just trying to get as many smart hands on the table as possible and to keep a ball rolling, and basically don't have luxury of time to select very often the right people because there is competition and time pressure, and there is no even priority to focus on quality. So this is bucket number one. And bucket number two, I think, is when you're hiring too quickly, is letting go too slowly. So not firing quickly enough, not letting people go. Again, it's related to this previous economy cycle, I think, but as an engineering manager, you're always afraid a bit to let people go because you think, oh, now I need to rehire, now I need to backfill. So how do I do it? Yeah. So it prevents you, again, to focus on quality and retaining the good people, which are good for this specific position at this specific time. Mm-hmm. And you're not letting people go quickly enough if it's needed. So there are two major buckets, I would say I had.
Okay, and how to avoid them? Because, you know, if you are in that current situation that it's very stressful and you need to hire as soon as it's possible, because, I don't know, it's clashing and you need to start development.
Yes.
So how to do it? So, of course, quality is important, but time is also very important. How to avoid it?
Yes. What helps me a bit, what I learned, is to be very honest with the origin of the need. So the origin of the need is maybe your C-level, your business owner, so someone who triggers this need to hire more, to get more headcount, especially in engineering, to do things quicker. So just they're coming to you like your CTO or CEO saying, hey, get things done. You need more people, hire, just get things done. So what helped me after some time, I started being very honest, communicating risks. So if I hire with lower quality, if I hire quicker than I would like to. So there are specific risks we need just to be aware of, and just let's have mitigation in place. So simple situation, I have limited budget, I have limited time, I need to hire a new product team to deliver X feature. So what do? I speed up interview process, I hire maybe a bit more of junior persons, and I compromise on quality, which is totally fine. But there are associated risks, so probably my delivery quality will be lower, maybe high risk of rework, maybe users will not be so happy with our new feature. So it's totally fine to take those risks as long as we see them, understand them, and we accept that something will happen, right? For example, our quality will be lower, and we agree that we are going to mitigate that. So this is what I did with my previous CTO. We just talked through those risks. I said, okay, hey, John Smith, we can do that. We can go quicker, but these are the risks. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to hire, for example, more people than I would do in normal situation, just to distribute the risk of people leaving, when I would need at least 2-3 very senior people who are going to mentor and coach those junior guys. And we need to accept the risk that quality of our work probably will be lower than you would expect in a normal situation. And if we very honest with this business owner and we agree together on how we going to accept those risks, then it's okay to go for lower quality hiring, I think.
And from your experience, how does it usually go? Do managers, like C-level managers, business owners, accept the risk or they prefer to prolong the hiring process?
Almost always it was, okay, let's do it. Let's go for a bit riskier approach and let's just... So time always wins. So always speed is the king. Let's see how it changes because now the approach is changing across the whole industry. Yeah. But previously during 10-15 years, it was always speed is the king.
Okay. This is what I actually expected. And could you give any specific case, the example when you had not very successful hire and how did you deal with that?
Probably in every company where I joined, I had at least a couple of unsuccessful hires. And it's totally fine because first of all, your recruitment process, there is always a space for an error, right? Your interviewing process cannot be ideal. So it's totally fine to have this buffer for an error. At the same time, there are some errors I regret, of course. So number one probably is hiring for passion instead of hiring for professionalism. And it attributes mostly to the most senior engineers I hired. So I can remember at least a couple of situations when I mixed up really person being passionate about what she or he is doing in his professional life and with what that person is actually capable to deliver. And let me just explain. I have usually one of stages during my recruitment process where I have an intro call, me and the candidate directly, and me as a hiring manager usually. And I just talk through about your approach to engineering, why you got into engineering, why you do what you do. Do you love what you are doing in your professional life? Why? Do you enjoy it? What you don't enjoy? So I'm trying to understand, do you have this fire inside you for your profession, actually, which is sometimes important. And sometimes I've had several situations when I see this fire in the eyes of a candidate and the person is very passionate about what he or she is doing, either software development or infrastructure or just building stuff for users. And I mix up this for being actually professional, actually being able to deliver. And how to avoid this mistake. So instead of being such subjective, how I sometimes become myself, I started inviting one more person to such calls, so not just being me, one-to-one, hiring manager and candidate. I started inviting one more person who maybe has a bit different attitude and different priorities, what we are looking at the candidate, just to listen in and that person has usually a bit different opinion for me to cross-check myself.
Yeah.
So it really helps. Just to ground my own optimism about the candidate a bit and level it down. So it really helps. So I started inviting additional person.
Okay, this is a good one, but it's passion is a very good advantage, right? You don't want to have a person who's not passionate about their job at all. Have you ever had a situation when there's a really good professional but has no passion at all for their job?
It's an interesting question because let's just remember what the interviewing process is. Interviewing process is a theater, right? So it's a kind of a game, and there are rules that you follow. If you follow the rules very well, usually you go through multiple interviews with very good success rate. So, and we all understand that. So it means there are multiple people who just get the rules well, they prepare well, and they know very well how to play this game and go through the interviewing process. And you can fake the passion, you can fake a lot of things, or maybe not fake, I would say, play it out, right? So just emphasize specific attributes what hiring manager or other participants in the interview process expect from you in specific stage. For example, in behavioral interview, I would focus I would have top 10 situations from my professional career prepared in advance, and I would just highlight them one by one, and I would just pick them out as I rehearsed before. If I have an interview about team fit, I would explore in advance who I'm going to talk to, and I would try to rehearse that as well. So you see, you can play by the rules and you can go through the interview. The same applies to the passion thing. You can play a passionate candidate. So that's the thing. So how I try to balance that out, I started looking less for passion, but more for historical signals. It means, can we talk about your past, professional past? Can we talk about your experience and very specific situations and assess them a bit more objectively? Not how you behave during the interview, not how I like you or I dislike you, but can we look at facts and numbers? What did you deliver as engineer? How did you help your businesses in terms of numbers? How did you help your teams in terms of team sentiment? So you see, I'm trying to move from this interview performance to actual past professional performance as much as is possible.
But what if a candidate is a junior person and has no experience or the past, to show off?
Yes, very good question. So in practice, you have nothing to demonstrate yet if you have limited professional experience because you just didn't have enough chance, right?
Yeah.
So how you assess future performance without having signal from past performance? So one of practices I apply very widely is simulating that. So how you simulate, you have a pet project together. You say, okay, so how do we try it out if we are going to be a good match for each other? Let's have a small project together, 2-3 days. Let's try working out that. Let's just try to pretend that you are our team member already. We allocate you to existing team. We give you real task, or you join existing real project. We pay you for it, of course, and you work with us for 2-3 days, maybe a week. And then at the end of this week, we meet again and decide together how it was. So it's kind of a very limited signal, of course, but it's much better than nothing. So usually 1 week is more than enough to see the person in the real world and see how you perform in real team.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just to check, how the person is behaving basically in that environment and with these tasks. Because I remember one really nice engineering candidate without almost any experience, and he was so passionate, but you could feel that it's like an honest passion, to become the best developer in the world, basically. And he delivered so well. We hired 2 people, one him, junior person, another one 10 years of experience candidate, and the junior one basically wrote the whole application by himself. He read, of course, many books and got a lot of help from other team members, but it's, still, I believe that passion is really something which is very important at work. But of course, it has to be honest. And sometimes during interviewing, it's not so easily to detect whether it's, performance or honesty. And how about the personality? When it comes to assessing candidates, how much do you look about the personal fit or match to the company's culture or team in comparison to the professionalism? What is most important for you, and how do you allocate this criteria?
I think this team fit or personal fit should be driven by your overall approach, what you want as a business. Because it depends. There is no good answer to this question. Like you should always do a team fit check or you shouldn't. For example, at my current place where we work and create consumer products or enterprise products, the view is quite different to what I used before. So the view now is you focus not on team fit, you focus on team diversity. And there is very specific pragmatic reason why you do it. Of course, overall team diversity has its own good outcomes for people, mental health, for internal team sentiment. But from business perspective, it has its own good outcomes as well. Just think about that. If you create consumer products for global market, for multiple countries across the world, so you create for diverse audience. And the same applies to enterprise products. You create for multiple industries across the whole world. The best outcome you can achieve is with diverse team, Why? Because just imagine you do product discovery. You try to figure out what your customers and users want and need. So how do you represent this vision need in the best way? You want this 360 view. How do you have 360 view? You have very different people to look at those at this problem domain and try to describe it, right? So then you want very diverse team of engineers, of product managers, of designers who represent very different point of view, and very different cultures as well. And it really helps, right?
Yeah.
Take another extreme. If you build product for very specialized domain, for very specialized market, and especially if you have a small team, then having a monolithic culture. So where all people, like not the same, but very similar by their cultural background, by their point of view, it really helps your speed of delivery, understanding without words, right? You don't need to speak, you just understand each other very quickly. So you have a lot of internal mental shortcuts when you are from the same culture. When your team is not diverse, you're like almost the same. So what you get speed and focus, but you can create products which are very focused and very constrained as well, right? So to summarize, it depends what you need. And I think quite often we misinterpret that team fit is about how we feel within the team. And we forget about this business element, what you get having diverse team or having non-diverse team, right? So that's why I would apply team fit filter during recruitment process, especially depending on your business priorities. And it's very important to be very honest what you do and what you don't do. But again, team fit is good thing for team's mental health, as I mentioned. It has own benefits to the team sentiment, of course.
Yeah, but it should be a little bit more difficult to work in a diverse team than in a very much like fitting team, like where everyone is almost the same. What differences do you see?
Exactly. So this is a kind of investment. You want to get specific element in your delivery, which otherwise you would not have with a non-diverse team. Just imagine your recruitment process should be different, right? Your retention process should be different because you should constantly maintain this balance of different cultural views, of different representatives from different domains of the world. So it's just not hiring, it's just retaining as well. And when cultural norms within the team should become very different. So your culture of work is different. For example, now when you have a meeting and you are discussing, for example, okay, so which path we should take with this product feature? Should we go quick and dirty and deliver quicker? Or we should take more time and discover more and talk to more users? And it may look like simple decision that can be driven just by numbers. At the same time, people from different culture treat time and sentiment of users differently, right? Yeah. For example, if you talk to someone from China, or if you talk to someone to Germany, or you talk to someone in the UK, they may have very different approach just because how they perceive time. So having those persons in the room really helps to have a balanced approach in this case. So how do you achieve this? It means your work culture should support this expression of diverse views. You should not treat people who, for example, are louder, have stronger opinions differently comparing to others, for example. You should allow every voice in the room to be heard. So it requires very specific work culture. So it means recruiting for diversity is not enough. It's just one small step. Retaining for diversity, this is what's really difficult. And keeping these internal cultural norms functional, what I see is really difficult. It's all about business investment. You should have people who are actually doing this, who maintain those norms, like HR professionals or engineering managers as well. You should train people, all of them, why we are doing that, for them to understand and actually support this work culture. And compared to smaller companies where you don't need it. So compared to small product startup where you focus on speed and diversity is less important because you are focusing on very specialized domain and industry, then you spend all this time on the product. Or you spend all this time on something else, for example, on engineering quality. So you see, there is kind of investment trade-off. where you spend your time.
Of course. Was it very difficult to adjust to this diverse environment and especially retaining talents when the team is very diverse?
I think it's very difficult if you do it from scratch. Just imagine you have a growing company, maturing, evolving company, and you reach some point when you understand but you're already too large to ignore this diversity element. So now you start thinking, okay, so how do I have representation across genders? Mm-hmm. How do I have proper representation across different cultures, different languages, different points of view? So now you're trying to transform your existing organization. I think this is a real high upfront investment. So this is difficult. When it's all working, the only investment you need to maintain is how you help to adjust new people who are joining. So if I'm joining a company which has this focus on cultural diversity, then I need to invest some time internally to adjust. And it took me, realistically, when I joined Meta, it took me about, I think, 4 months to start really getting the point, trying to see the results. So I'm quite pragmatic person. So I always want to see the benefit of doing something. So it took me several months to see the actual benefit comparing to my previous teams. Having this diverse point of view actually works and brings actual better outcomes in specific situations.
Mm-hmm. And have you ever had a situation when a person joined your such a diverse team and couldn't stay because of, I don't know, differences in the approach to work or some other maybe cultural issues?
I didn't have it in my team directly. I've seen several cases in our teams. But you see, one part what you need to think about when you're thinking about diversifying your cultural representation, especially, is what controls you put in place. So as I said, retaining this work culture is difficult. And controls is not about reminding people, oh, so you just should respect different point of view. You should hear all the voices. So reminding is not enough. Mm-hmm. You need to award good behavior, and sometimes you need to punish bad behavior. And punish in quotes, I mean, just saying, oh, yo, come on, you need to be a bit more respectful is not enough. You should have proper HR controls in place if reminding doesn't work. It can go as disciplinary actions, it can go as termination in specific cases. And people should be aware, and those controls should work, because just creating training courses, just saying how nice and diverse we are is not enough. You should walk the talk, right? You should actually keep the culture like that up to your standards, what you're talking about.
Yeah. And when it comes to the interviewing or selecting candidates, so when you're looking for a cultural fit, like or team fit, it's pretty simple, right? So you identify what is the culture of your team or the company, and you go ahead. But when it comes to the diversity, and especially it's a very organic process, right? It's changing all the time. And because some new people join and it's even more diverse, how do you prepare and how do you conduct the interviewing, assessing the diversity, basically?
Look, again, interviewing is a game, right? So you can fake this, your approach to diversity as well. You can always say, oh, yes, for example, I can say I'm white dude. I can say, oh, yes, I like working with women with in my product teams, right? I always try to do it. I like working across different cultures, but it can be faked very easily because it just works. What really helps is justifying by actual experience doing that. So if I have some experience actually working in diverse teams and I can explain this experience and backed by facts, then it's much easier, right? So if I worked in previous companies where it was a similar culture or I had experience transforming the team from non-diverse to diverse, then it's a bit easier, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, if you don't have such experience, I think you just cannot prove it until you actually went into such environment and you can show that you can properly operate and deliver in such environment. I think every person who comes first into diverse environment, to anyone, to white dude, to someone from Asia, from someone from Africa, someone from US, it's always a shock. Mm-hmm. It's just fact, because we live in our small bubbles, and when you understand that world is a puzzle and it's huge and it's very different comparing to your bubble, it's a shock to any one of us. Maybe it's very sometimes it's not popular to talk about that, but we all know that it's a shock to understand how different we are, all of us, at the same time, how equal we are, and every voice is should be respected to be heard, right? Even if it's different. So it's always a shock, and it's always takes some time for you personally to adjust. When you do it one time in your life, I think next time so much easier.
But then there could be a little bit risky, right? If there's a new team member joining the team, having no experience working in a diversity team, and this should be pretty often, and then you're somehow risking whether this person could adapt or not.
That's true. That's true. So how you do it? How I see we are doing in our current teams. So just imagine. I can tell you about my current teams, what I'm working with, just to understand what diversity means. So we have boys and girls, so gender representation. We have cultural representation. In my current teams, I have people from China, from Singapore, from Egypt, from Russia, from Ukraine, me. So we have in each team 5-6 different countries and 2-3 totally different cultures. And when we have a new person coming to the same team, what really helps, but the team is diverse already. So basically you have nothing to compare against, right? You have nothing like you've seen before. For example, let's imagine I'm coming from Lithuania, and this is the first diverse team I see in my life. So I have nothing to compare what I had previously in Lithuania, because it's just totally different, right? So I cannot go talk to 3 other Lithuanians in my team because there are no Lithuanians, right? I cannot go talk to white dudes in my team because maybe there are no white dudes. So you see, you cannot cluster anymore around the same culture you belong to, because there is no single major representation of your culture anymore. It's balanced already. So basically, the only way forward for you is to adjust and to become part, so to blend in. And it really helps. So I think this is one of principles we follow when we create a new team, a new product team. We always try to create a team, of course, by skills, by experience, at the same time keeping that diverse enough for a new person to join and blend in immediately, not to have any major cultural representation.
Okay, and when you mentioned blend in, what would be your tips out of your experience? How to do it, or maybe how not to do it? Like what is the easiest path to blend?
Yeah. What really helps me is be very curious, because probably not many of us visited all countries in the world and seen the whole planet. So probably a lot of us, we have very limited experience of different countries, different cultures, different everything, right? So meeting people from other parts of this nice world is amazing opportunity to be curious and to learn about them. What really helps me, I'll start asking stupid questions. So what's your favorite food? Hey, let's have dinner together. Can you arrange a dinner out for the team and just bring us to your favorite restaurant in London and from your culture, right? And we just do a roundabout across the whole team, and everyone brings to his favorite place with that cuisine. I talk about where do you go for vacation. It's very interesting. For example, if you talk to a girl from Egypt and I learned where we go for vacation, it's very different comparing to where I go. So it's very easy to understand the culture if you talk about their real life, how they see the world on the very basic level. Where we go for food, where we go for drink, where we go for vacation, what they enjoy in life, right? Who they spend time with. So it's very interesting, because if you're a curious person, just interesting to learn. And it shapes your boundary of understanding again how different we are together, at the same time how many common things we have together, right? Not just because we are working with the same company right now, but because how many common thoughts we have about, I don't know, politics, economy, our current work, and you start valuing that much more. All the common things across you as well. So this is what really helps. What doesn't help what really doesn't help. If you start comparing to your own culture to how you did it at home, how you did it previously, comparison never works because you are just different, right? And there is no good or bad way to live your life as it appears. And when you compare, you try to justify why your way of living your life, way of working, for example, is better than in our culture. And I think it never helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a really great transition, or at least like personal growth for every person joining a diverse team. Because, yeah, you have to get open and to learn new things, and especially not compare to the things you're used to. And in the very beginning, you also mentioned that first top recruitment failures usually companies do is also letting people not soon enough. Do you have any
Yes.
experience of yours by doing that?
Yes. There are two flavors to that. So first, when you hire, so for example, I hired one engineer in one of my product teams before, and one of flavors, if you think that person will change.
Mhm.
So you see some red flags. You see potentially bad behavior in the team. That person is translating negative sentiment, and you first time you see it as maybe okay. So that person just in bad mood today. When you see it second time, third time, when, for example, you see person not delivering up to your expectations, to team expectations, you see it one time, two times, and those are just red flags. So bell is ringing. And one of mistakes I made several times is thinking that person can change, especially it's applicable to senior experienced engineers. And my conclusion so far, my very subjective one, people never change, unfortunately, on their foundational level. So your traits will not change if you're grown up. It's you can adjust, you can learn, you can fade out specific red flags, but it's very difficult to change yourself if you're honest and open. So it means that you're not just in your right place. It's not what is something wrong with you. The team is not right for you. I'm not right for you as hiring manager. It was my mistake probably that we decided to work together, and it's just not the right time, right? So we should just go our own ways. So the issue I had, I tried to give people too much time to demonstrate that they can change, making assumption that they can change in the first place, which is not right, I think. So what I would do differently, I would be very open with such persons and agree on time boxing such experiment and being very open what is not working out. And if we agree mutually it's not working out, deciding to go our own ways as soon as possible on very good terms, on good terms, because it's my mistake. So I need to compensate this to that person, right? Because it's my hiring mistake.
Well, why do you think it's your mistake? It's also a candidate's mistake too, because they make the decision too, whether to join your team or not.
That's right. But I think there is a higher negative impact on the person who is let go emotionally.
Okay.
First, so you already take the hit, and for you as for hiring manager for the company to let someone go, there is very little emotional sentiment in practice. For you as person affected, I think it's a huge impact, almost always. So that's why. So I think it's fair to try to look at that as a bit unbalanced situation. So letting person go is easier for company.
Yeah, makes sense, of course. And what was your most difficult fire?
Most difficult fire. So, good question. So, as we discussed before, when you try to focus on hiring quickly enough to deliver stuff, to get things done, and especially when you're looking for a critical person who is on critical path of your delivery, for example, your tech lead or your director of engineering, and if you make this hiring mistake and then you drag for too long, then the longer you keep the situation like that and not allowing to bleed your team, your company, your product, the more impact you have exponentially. So it depends on the position. as well of a person. So if you hire engineer and you have such situation that you're not letting person quick enough, it's one. But if you have a bit different role, another manager, engineering manager or director of engineering, then it becomes a real problem because you're affecting not one person, but your effect now is scaled, right, across maybe multiple product teams, maybe across a whole company. So it becomes exponentially bad. So that's why I think to such critical positions, the speed is the king as well, but you need to fire even quicker, I think. So it's very difficult to do, unfortunately, because you put this person on your critical path and you depend on that person a lot, right? So it becomes a bit more painful for you and for the company.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. And to finalize our talk, maybe you could share your main insight you would like to share with other hiring managers, the biggest learning or the greatest insight you have from your experience.
What comes to my mind, what really helps me is to be as honest and as open during recruitment process and after recruitment as well, during onboarding, while trying to retain people and then deciding to let people go. So honesty and this openness as much as I can, of course, a situation allows, really helps. And what this honesty means, you as hiring manager, you as technical leader, you should represent the company. You should represent the product and the users, customers for whom you are building. And what it means, you should imagine that you are putting your own money on the table and wishes and needs of your users and customers on the table. And it means if I decide to invite someone to my team, or if I decide to let someone go from my team, how does it affect my own financial stability? If it's my own company, would I put my own money to hire that person? Or would I risk my own financial stability letting that person go? So looking from this personal perspective, this is what I started applying and this is really helps. So think about if you are CEO of the company, would you do it? Would you take this risk or would you make this specific decision? Of course, I'm not CEO. I'm not trying to. But if you look from this business perspective, I think that really helps.
Okay, great. So thank you, Olegas, so much for your time and for sharing your stories.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all the listeners. For more podcasts, please visit jobrely.com.